You know, it's going to be a strange day when a woman with a sharp bob haircut is screaming, "That's my barn!" while standing on my property, and the cops are trying to figure out why she called 911 over a padlock. What she didn't realize is that I work for the DEA, retired now, but not disconnected, and her beloved nephew. Let's just say he's on a list we keep in a drawer that requires a key. So, yes, I decided it was time to play chess. This probably sounds insane, and it is a little, but that's life in rural HOA country, where mailbox height is more sacred than personal freedom and passive-aggressive pettiness is the local currency. I moved here for peace. After 20 years with the DEA, most of it deep undercover, I wanted trees, dogs, silence, and a place where no one tried to kill me before my morning coffee. This house had charm land, and the best part, it was a few feet outside the HOA boundary, close enough to hear their wine and wine meetings, but far enough to legally ignore them. That little detail, it triggered everything. See, I have a barn, a big, fire engine red beauty with weathered character. I bought it from the previous owner, a Civil War reenactor with questionable hobbies but impeccable carpentry skills. I store tools there, a few rescue dogs, gardening supplies, private fence locked, all legal. But to her, let's call her Marlene, because of course it would be Marlene, it was an abomination. A red scar against her manicured, beige existence. It started small. A note on my door. Friendly reminder, neutral tones are preferred in our community. Please consider repainting. I threw it out. Next week, a couple of HOA flyers in my mailbox. Illegal, by the way. I'm not part of the HOA. I told her politely to leave me out of her suburban dictatorship. That's when she went full tyrant. The clipboard appeared. The speed walking past my fence with long telephoto lenses. The measuring tape. She actually pretended to stretch while measuring my fence height one morning. I said nothing. But then one day, the barn door was open. I lock it every night. Always have. Nothing was missing, but someone had been inside. That's when I installed cameras. Not flashy ones, just trail cams. I wasn't tracking raccoons. I was tracking pests of a different sort. Next night, motion alert. 2 teenage boys. One of them was her nephew. Let's call him Chad, because of course. They're hanging out inside my barn, smoking something not legal and making a mess. I didn't call the cops. Not yet. I moved anything valuable out, replaced the lock with a commercial-grade beast, and filed every second of footage away. Next morning, Marlene marched down my driveway like a general. Furious that the kids were scared they couldn't get in. Furious I locked the barn without notifying the neighborhood. I told her very calmly, "This is my land. Unless your nephew has a key to federal property, which he doesn't, he shouldn't be inside." She pulled out her phone and called 911. She claimed I was illegally detaining public property and had locked up a community resource. The officers arrived 10 minutes later, confusion all over their faces. I showed them the deed, the footage, and the HOA exemption. One of them pulled me aside and asked, "What's your background again?" "Federal," I said, flashing the corner of an old badge. "Retired-ish." They nodded and left. She babbled about legal action, but I had already won because what Marlene didn't know is that her precious nephew had just triggered a deeper investigation. One quick background check, and there he was, Chad, known associate of a mid-level dealer in the next county. I fed that intel to a contact, and suddenly the barn was a dot on a federal map. And I was no longer just a neighbor. I was an asset. Over the next week, she escalated. Zoning complaints, anonymous letters, a voicemail pitched low and clumsy pretending to be code enforcement. I sent it to a friend at the county clerk's office. They confirmed no such complaint existed, but they were interested in someone impersonating an officer. Then came the night that changed everything. Motion alert. Not the boys this time. It was Marlene alone in the barn, holding something she shouldn't have. I zoomed in. It was a small metal box, part of an active DEA investigation. She wasn't just trespassing now. She was tampering. I recorded every second. I didn't confront her. I let her walk out, smug and clueless. Then I visited the sheriff's office. Got another HOA story, Brent? The deputy joked. Better, I said, handing over the drive. They took it seriously, because inside that box, evidence tied to a meth ring operating just over county lines. Suddenly, Marlene's barn obsession wasn't just nosiness. It was federal obstruction. She didn't stop. Filed a formal complaint. Accused me of being a drug dealer. Tried to rally neighbors. Door-to-door Schindler flyers, the works. She didn't know she'd already sunk her own ship. Then came a call. You might want to sit down for this, the sheriff said. Chad's been arrested, and it looks bigger than we thought. That was the beginning of the end. At dawn, the unmarked SUVs rolled in. No sirens, just precision. A soft breach. 6 agents. They hit Marlene's house from all sides. Her nephew Chad, cuffed on the porch within minutes. Shirtless, confused, stupid. His older brother, worse, fresh out of prison. No resistance, just dead-eyed resignation. Agents carried out 3 duffel bags. 1 from the attic, 1 from the garage, 1 from the crawl space. All full of product. Marlene stood there, bathrobe flapping, watching her kingdom burn. Her name was on the mortgage. Her prints would be everywhere. Whether she knew or not didn't matter. Ignorance isn't a defense. Not at this level. The HOA turned fast. Emergency meeting. She was out before lunchtime. One neighbor posted a photo of the raid captioned, "This is why we need background checks for HOA presidents." She didn't know I orchestrated any of it. Not really. I never made a false complaint. Never lifted a finger beyond what the law allowed. I simply waited, documented, let her spiral. She filed a civil suit. Emotional distress, harassment, defamation. I brought a binder. Evidence, footage, fake letters. The judge dismissed it in 10 minutes. Fined her for wasting the court's time. She tried to stare me down outside the courthouse. There was nothing left behind her eyes. Word spread fast. Her house sat dark. Legal bills mounted. The HOA, the very thing she weaponized, fined her into foreclosure. I bought it. No. I turned it into a recovery center. A halfway home for nonviolent drug offenders. Yes, in her house. Her kitchen, her den, now served hot meals to men she would have called undesirables. Then one Sunday, she returned. Same SUV. Worse condition. She marched across the lawn like she still owned it. One of the residents asked, "Want a tour?" She ranted, threatened lawsuits, yelled about her ruined life. No one listened. Then came a letter. "You may have won the battle, but the community will always belong to those who care." No name, but I knew. She started a non-profit, a shadow HOA. Flyers went out. Pink paper stock, clip art. She even used the old logo. Legally murky. Definitely. So I threw a party. Big one. Banner read, "Not under your authority." Half the town came. The sheriff too. Marlene watched from across the street. Her non-profit quietly dissolved. Months later, a photo of my barn arrived. No message, just that. I taped it to the fridge beside the foreclosure receipt. She was done. Not by my hand, by her own. Last week, I got a notice from the county. A new HOA had formed. 2 neighborhoods over. Vice Chair of Aesthetic Compliance? One Karen v. Stacy. I almost felt bad for them.